You know, some people enjoy composing their own music, chord by chord, and others are happiest when they come across that one perfect song. Work is not a lot different than that. Whether you prefer building your own workflow or using a pre-made template, with Monday.com, you and the team can work in a way that's comfortable for everyone. Tap the banner to go to Monday.com and build your own amazing workflow, or find an awesome template. No judgment.
Welcome to RuPaul's Drag Race Recap Show for Season 13, Episode 10, titled Freaky Friday Queens. My name is Taylor the Latte Boy, and I'm joined, as always, by one completely delusional, if he thinks I'm going to read what's on the script, co-host. The Poppy of Afterthought Media, please say...
This cow is speaking...
to Joe Betance. Hello, Joe.
Hello, Taylor the Latte Boy. But whatever you got in the script, I did not write. I didn't write it. Luke Stamen is our producer. He writes the scripts. He writes introductions. I don't even know what was on there.
Mm-hmm. You don't ever edit them. No, not at all.
Nope. I always just take whatever Luke writes on the page is gospel. And that's what I do. So,
okay.
Yeah.
How are you this week?
I'm doing... Taylor, we just talked for 35 minutes. What do you mean? You know exactly how I'm doing.
But not everybody hears that.
Yeah.
Because not everybody is a Patreon member.
Yes.
And they really need to sign up for it. Because if you were a Patreon member, you would get to hear, though we don't know how, through some sort of weird magic wiretapping thing, you'd get to hear a conversation that we had about armed standoffs.
Yep.
And Joe's need to get a spice, to put his own life at risk to get a spice for a disastrous recipe. We talked about movies that make us sad or movies that make us cry. We talked about all sorts of stuff on a time that we like to call, between the two of us, just between us girls.
Everyone, Taylor started crying.
I didn't cry. I got all of a sudden a well of emotion just sort of started to rise up. But like a good therapist, I tapped down my feelings as much as possible. So they can come out sideways later on when I yell at my husband because he moved something in the kitchen.
Talking about a Whoopi Goldberg movie. I think it was Jumping Jack Flash. I don't know.
Yes, it was Jumping Jack Flash.
What was the one where she did with Ted Danson?
Made in America? Not Made in America.
That sounds right.
Made in America?
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it so? Remember Whoopi Goldberg and Ted Danson dated?
Yeah. And he did blackface.
Oh, yeah, at a roast of Whoopi Goldberg. And it was a super controversial. Oh, he would be so canceled now.
I was going to say. And he still has a career.
Yeah. Oh, he did blackface at the right time.
Yeah. Because there's always a right time and a wrong time for blackface.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Imagine if he did that now. Oh, my goodness. I would actually think
he wouldn't be able to walk on the runway with this week's challenge.
Well, you know what's so funny? I was actually just thinking about this the other day about, everyone is so sad that Robin Williams is no longer with us. Just brief historical note, by the way, committed suicide right after performing with Lori Roggenkamp. Whole other story. And rightfully so, Robin Williams, national treasure. But I was thinking... He kind of pushed, he was an envelope pusher, and I wonder if he would be canceled. If he would have been canceled had he still been alive.
I think there's a good chance he would be.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. I think that there would be. Well, I think that you would have. Oh, I could go down a rabbit hole with this one, but I think at some point it would be that because he played a character that was based in a story from the Middle East, from that region, that he was not of Middle Eastern descent. Not that I don't think he was. No. That could be a problem. I mean, I think that you could really find a reason to cancel just about anybody at this point.
Well, it's so funny, but there's that whole I can't remember who made the quote. It's like when you know who made the quote, it's not a famous person, but talking about the Nazis, like first day came for the Jews, and I didn't say anything.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. It's the same thing here because, Aiden, my boyfriend, is so pro cancel culture, right? Which, by the way, I don't give a shit because I don't think anybody ever really gets canceled. There are a few people who really do get canceled and they're worth it, like, Kevin Spacey. But for the most part, you're just put in a penalty box for a few months, okay?
Right.
Anyway, so I don't give a shit. Cancel whoever you want. But the point I'm making is, so he's like, oh yeah, cancel this, that's so offensive, Pepe Le Pew, cancel that, whatever. And then I told them they were coming for Miss Piggy, and he lost his motherfucking mind.
They're coming for Miss Piggy?
Supposedly, that's what I saw.
Why?
Because Kermit tells her no, and she, forces herself on him and doesn't take, no means no. I'm not being funny. You can put it in Google.
Well, okay, yeah, okay. So the Pepe Le Pew thing, that makes sense because on my Apple TV, like if you scroll through with iTunes, and it said like the number one video was apparently some Pepe Le Pew video that everybody's buying for like $8. That is a bunch of. I always like the Pepe Le Pew. I mean, I can understand where it would be, problematic, is what the kids say, but ultimately, it's funny. So that's what I like about it. Mm-hmm.
Well, I get the Pepe Le Pew thing because he was essentially sexually assaulting these cats or skunks. And I think very impressionable minds watch this and think that's okay. Like my mom the other day, now Different Strokes, the TV show with Gary Coleman, is now running on like Antenna TV or Me TV or one of those things. And it was on because that's all my parents watch.
Right.
And my mom was walking through the room as my dad was watching Different Strokes, which, by the way, I loved as a kid. What a horrible show this is.
God, it's a horrible
show. Awful.
Yeah.
Right? But it was on, and my mom's walking through the room, and she's like, I just hear like, And I go, what's the problem? And she goes, that just reminds me you were so annoying when the show was on the air. She goes, you kept walking around going like, what you talking about, Willis? What you talking about? If I said anything, what you talking about, Mom? And I was like, do you just, everywhere we went? I remember I went to her job and I called her boss a hunky.
An old lady, right? Wasn't it?
No. That's when I told the two Avens were the Pointer Sisters. No. She had an old Jewish man as a boss, Mr. Sine. And I said, what's up, hunky? And, I got in big trouble for that.
This week, a psychic reads the queens for their future and pairs them off for this season's makeover challenge. Simone and Utica win the challenge while Denali and Olivia battle it out in a lip sync for their lives. In the end, Olivia outshines Denali and lives to see another day, while Denali is asked to sashay away. Joe Betance, name 2 things you liked about this week's episode and 1 thing you did not.
I'll make it very simple. 1, Taylor. I don't really have a lot to say about this episode, which means we'll go 3 hours. But 2, it was a very fun episode.
Yes.
I had a lot of fun watching it. Don't have a lot of notes. I've watched it 3 times, but it was a fun episode to watch. And so that's one thing I liked. Next thing, I'm going to be honest with you, even though I know the tricks and I know the traps and the goopery and the riggery. What the fuck you call me? This rosé is growing on me.
I'd like her to grow on me.
By the way, I didn't realize how little she is until she looked really little in Tina Burner's clothes.
Well, Tina Burner is built like a linebacker. I mean,
I know, but I think rosé is like also very short. I didn't realize how little she is.
Okay.
And then the thing I didn't like, maybe they think it's quirky and cute, or maybe I don't know what the editors are trying to do, but Utica's weirdness is really starting to weird me out. I feel it was very in front today on this episode.
Really?
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on it. I think there's a lot of like just sort of weird. It's just like it's weird. I'll bring this up later, but I think I can't remember if it was one of our listeners, State of Bree or Lauren S. One of those two, maybe it's somebody else, mentioned after we recorded the show that Utica, as we learned early on, is Seventh-day Adventist and may or may not have been homeschooled.
Okay.
And I go, oh, that explains so much. Now, I don't know if she is homeschooled, but the behavior seems a lot like behavior people who homeschool their kids. I'm not saying every homeschooled kid is like this. I'm just saying I've known homeschool kids who have weirdness fitting in socially.
Awkwardness that are very socially awkward. There's levels of social awkwardness.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that kind of got. Oh, by the way, too, I'm at a second thing. The riggery with this Denali going home. Whether she should have gone home or not.
What'd you call me?
Yeah. We have a lot to discuss with this Denali going home. But what about you, Taylor? What are the two things you liked about the episode and one thing you did not?
I would say that generally I really liked the episode. As I had mentioned before when we were talking on Just Between Us Girls, I'd had a really stressful week at work, and I was sort of not looking forward to this episode. I'm not a big fan of the makeover shows, but I enjoyed the lightness of the episode, and that everybody, even though there seemed to be some concern between Simone and Utica in the beginning, like everybody got along. Nobody fought with one another, even though they sort of planted that seed early in the beginning of the season with Tina and Rosé. So thinking, oh, these two are going to come at each other. The fact that they did get along so well was refreshing and fun to watch. Generally, that's really the only thing that I liked about the episode, meaning just because I liked the whole episode and thought to myself, this is really light.
Yeah.
Until the one thing I did not like, because I actually enjoyed Candy through the episode until the question.
Yeah.
And then her showing her ass and yelling down the line at everybody and would not stop. It was just you're we almost had the perfect light, French eclair of an episode that was just where you just ate it and it just felt light and it was airy and it was wonderful. And then we have where, ultimately Rue asking the question was not great. But when you have that where then she's screaming and yelling and doing the hand clapping, and that was just not, I was like, oh, you almost had me. You almost had me where, I would consider joining Team Candy and then you just took it all away.
Yeah, during the elimination day in my notes, I wrote, wow, if Candy would have just acted like this from the beginning, people would have really liked her.
I agree.
Yeah, she seemed very, modest and still fun, still had personality, but it was a little crazy.
Yeah. After Elliot's elimination, Utica confuses the queens with her enthusiasm for lip syncing. Olivia gives Simone props for her BLM-inspired runway look. Finally, the queens congratulate Gottmik on her win, and Tina shows off her botched self-haircut. Joe, what are your thoughts on the first segment of the show?
Okay. This Utica, right? She's so fucking weird. This is my first example here. She is prancing into this workroom so happy, and then talking about how exhilarating it was to do the lip sync. Do you realize you were this close to getting eliminated? In my head, I think she sees the lip sync for your life as a prize, or it was very, very strange. You can even tell by the reaction of the other girls that for some reason, someone's mowing a lawn right out by my head. I don't know if you can hear that. But my question, my point is that every other girl you can tell is just what the fuck what is wrong with you? And again, maybe I'll bring it up now. We can bring it up now, bring it up later. Then she even asked RuPaul what she thought of the lip sync. She is so stoked.
which was the response that Ru gave was pretty good.
Yeah.
But think about this. What is the part of the show that everybody loves, that everybody waits for, is the lip sync.
Yeah.
We've had 13 seasons and All Stars and various other spinoffs and that sort of stuff, of where you wait to see what the girls can do when they are put under pressure in that way. I think that this might be, and this kind of speaks to the way the girls now may see the lip sync, or viewers of the show may see the lip sync, versus the early seasons did, in that you've got girls now that know that this will help them to be remembered forever. Because if they have the ability to really kind of turn it out and have an amazing lip sync, that maybe in her mind, she had so much fun and did such a great job that she'll end up on one of these Miss Mojo top 20 lip syncs from RuPaul's Drag Race of all time. or that where you have these like where people will create montages or video things of like, a bunch of different lip syncs that they like, or movements and lip syncs. This is where this kind of helps to cement her a little bit more in the history of the show, where she isn't somebody that's just kind of always in the background, except for a couple of really cool looks. Does that make sense?
No, it makes sense, but am I wrong that she's delusional if she thinks...
Oh, no, completely delusional. She came very close to being in the bottom and may not realize that until the next time she has to lip sync for her life, if she ever does, and then ends up going home.
Yeah, anyway. Yeah, I just thought she seemed very, very odd. What about you? What were your thoughts on this Act 1 thing?
I mean, it's typical fare, I guess. I don't know if I am just getting old and my hearing is going or what, but I did not understand until I just read the description, the whole Tina Burner thing, of where I knew she fucked up her hair in some way, but it was almost like between the music and everybody talking and everything. And I watched it like 3 times. I didn't understand what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, while that was, I guess I appreciate the fact that it was, they cut to right before it was supposed to go to the intro of the show. Mm-hmm. I liked that they did that. It was slightly a little bit different, but it was,
What do you think about this thing, and what's your speculation in terms of Tina saying, "Oh, her day is coming"? Because she hasn't won a challenge yet, and she's basically like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, just ready to pounce.
I think that is goopery on the part of the producers. Mm-hmm. I think that is where, how often have we seen that where they say, "This is my week," and then they're the one who goes home. I mean, granted, that didn't happen with Tina today. It could have, but it was not what necessarily happened. But unless something happens next week, I can't imagine that Tina is long for this show.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Or that she is going to be like as we're seeing on, as we've seen really for the most part on Drag Race UK, like an Ellie Diamond who's never actually won anything, but has made it really, really far, who's kind of coasted under the radar. She may be a coaster.
Okay, very good.
The next day, the queens return to the workroom for this week's challenge. First, RuPaul sends the queens to the main stage for a psychic reading with Char Margolis. Tina's dad and Utica's cow have heartfelt messages, and Char exposes Denali and Rosé's mutual crush. Next, RuPaul pairs up the queens, per Char's suggestion, for this week's makeover challenge. Tina is paired with Rosé, Denali with Olivia, Utica with Simone, and Candy with Gottmik. Each pair must make over their partner to be their own doppelganger. Joe, what were your thoughts on the mini challenge, on the pairings, on the maxi challenge? What were your initial thoughts with everything?
Well, first of all, Denali comes in and she goes, "Oh my God, there are only 8 of us." And I'm like,
yes,
we're on episode 10.
There's so much room here. What?
Yeah, I'm like, what are you talking about? We're 10 episodes in and there's still 8. I'm looking like, oh my God, there's still 8.
Yes.
There's still 8 of them.
I am the exact same way. And that is not lost, I think, on the audience. The more I see things on Twitter, more people are like, how fucking long is the season going to be?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I was just like, oh my God. Next. Now, I have a show, Taylor, that is on Patreon only, patreon.com/afterthoughtmedia, called The Rumor Mill. And so every week, we only do it per week, I know who's going home. So I knew Denali was going home this week. So I'm able to see these little weird things the editors put in. And she says in there at one point that she feels really confident about this week. And on the page, I just drew these. I'll draw it again because I typed my notes back up. But I drew these eyes like this on my notes. Because basically
looking off to the side?
Yeah, like side eyes. Because I was like, oh, bitch.
Yeah. But that's what I'm talking about with Tina. That's the whole thing of where the first one that they show going, this is my week to win. They're the ones that are walking out.
Yeah. Is it the sword of Damocles that's over the person's head?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. That's
yeah.
It's like, I was just like, oh, bitch, you even know. And then also, I was very curious about who this Char Margolis was and whatnot. And I guess she has a show on Wild Presents.
Oh, does she?
Yeah.
I had no idea who she was. I found it interesting that she didn't refer to herself as a psychic. She said it was something like an intuitive psychic. It was something where I guess she didn't want it to be where people, get that connotation of, the turban and the crystal ball.
Yeah.
But it was very much what intuitive tells me that she's really good at reading body language. That's kind of what that tells me. And that's where she sort of picks up on things.
So what are your thoughts on like fortune telling and all that?
I did hospice care for 15 years.
Yeah.
And I had enough people who didn't know each other, say similar things to me to not think there's no way I can't think there isn't something else out there, whether it's a different plane of existence, whether there is an afterlife, whatever you want to call it, unless everybody just has the same biophysical reactions to dying and they hallucinate or whatever. But there's enough things that people say that I'm kind of like, okay, well, you know what? If it makes everybody feel good. So is she actually a psychic? I don't know. But I feel like a lot of people that are like this are really good, as I said, at picking up very, very tiny clues of the people in front of them that kind of lead them in the direction of saying things that help to kind of pull the person in. And then a lot of times, one of the things that I do with clients to get them to talk is I just don't talk. I just sit very quiet after they've said something, and then it makes them uncomfortable. So they just provide me with more information. So there's ways to do that. There's ways to manipulate people to gather information on them. I think that some of the stuff that was talked about, whether it was the cow or whether it was, I lived by a lake or something, I think that would be easy enough to find on social media. I mean, they have their real names, so it's not like that somebody couldn't have gone back and fed her information as far as, Utica has a picture of her when she was a kid with a cow. There could be things like that. The whole crush thing that could have easily been picked up by producers and the set crew watching the two of them and kind of, whispering in her ear, these two are macking on each other, but maybe she is psychic. I don't know. We'll never actually know that, but everybody seemed to have a good time with it. So that was fun to watch.
So Taylor, I have on my phone, there's a tarot card app.
Okay.
And all it does, there's different things you can do with it, but it'll just draw a random card and explain to you what it means. And would you like me to draw a card for you?
Sure.
Okay. So let's, so I've drawn the card. I will show it to you. Okay. It's a reversed, Six of Swords. Okay.
Okay.
And this is from the app. A ferryman punts a boat easily across a river. The boat holds 2 passengers, a woman and a child. They are cloaked. They seem shrouded to maintain anonymity. Are they trying to hide dejection or fear? The Six Swords are standing upright in the bow of the boat as they are accompanying the people on their journey. Now, because yours is reversed, this is what it means. Here are some buzzwords first.
Okay.
See if they ring true for you for today, right now. So this is for today. Lack of movement. Unresolved anxieties.
That's every day of my life.
Lack of support. Okay.
Okay.
You are going to be stuck in this current situation for a while.
Oh, great.
You risk stagnation if things do not change. Unresolved anxieties, fears, and worries still haunt you. You need to deal with them as they are the root of your problem. Be prepared for the lack of support from others who may be unwilling to become involved in your problems. Does any of that ring true with you, Taylor?
Oh, that was my entire therapy session on Wednesday.
Oh.
Everything except for the lack of support. I feel very supported by people who are very aware of the things that I'm going on right now. Mm-hmm. For the most part, I did have a conversation with a friend who took what I was going through and made it all about him. And that was a little frustrating by the end of the night. But otherwise, for the most part, yeah. Oh God, if I'm going to stay like this for a while, that's a problem.
Now look, I learned this with learning about tarot card. It doesn't tell you the future. It just says if you don't make changes, this is what's going to happen. So, and
I am making changes.
So there you go.
So then
you're not confined. It's not a prison. It's not a prison.
A glass case of emotion.
A glass case of emotion.
All right. So what were your thoughts about the announcement of the challenge and the decision to pair up each of the queens?
Well, what's funny is at first I noticed that they did not say that she paired them up. They used a very weird, careful language, but then later Ru does say that she paired them up. So I don't know what it is. Because she says, based on Char's suggestion, we made some pairings. But then later on she goes, Char put you guys together. So I think the producers put it together.
I'm sure they did.
Yeah. I think Char, what would Char know about who to put together? Because then also based on Char's suggestions, wouldn't she put Rose and Denali together? Or would they put Utica and Candy together because Candy's a cow?
No, I think similar to the Nina Valentina thing of where they put Valentina into lip sync. I think they thought by having Simone and Utica together, there was no way that their drag styles were going to work. And if they could lip sync, Simone is more of the lip sync assassin and she could have taken Utica out. I think that's why that pairing happened. Okay. You also have the idea of the seed that was planted early on that Rosé and Tina didn't get along in New York. So I think that they were probably looking at that potentially for drama. But when you consider that this is kind of the season of nice part 2, like last season, I think that all of those plans kind of fell apart. The closest we got to that was Simone and Utica Simone in particular being very uncomfortable, but with the whole idea of these two very different drag aesthetics. But I think that she handled it gracefully and it obviously it worked out for the two of them. Back in the workroom, the queens get ready for this week's Maxi Challenge. Denali plans to turn Olivia into an ice queen. Tina pulls a red and yellow garment for Rosé. Utica fears the risk of cultural appropriation. Candy and Gottmik struggle to find pieces for each other and resign themselves to slaving over a sewing machine. Joe, what are your thoughts on this week's Maxi Challenge prep?
Yeah. So one of the things that struck me, I even made it in my notes, and I don't know why it really struck me. This isn't even on the first watch I noticed this. When they were focusing on Simone and Utica, and they were playing that music. Yeah, when they were playing that music, and then they were playing Utica, that music was underneath Utica describing her music. I mean, what she wanted to do. I was actually listening to what she said, and I'm all, that actually sounds kind of cool.
Yeah.
But the way they edited it with everyone's looking like, oh, what the fuck is this bitch talking about? And the music, and I was like, and then actually we saw on the runway, it was that very thing she was talking about. And it was actually pretty cool. But if you actually listen to what she's saying, it actually sounds very interesting and very cool. So it shows you how editing tries to lead you down the primrose path, and when actually it was completely fine. Another thing I wrote too is I actually wrote this as a shady comment, but it actually happened, was when Mick and Candy Muse were working together. I'm all, all Mick has to do is have Candy Muse show her nipples, and then. That's exactly what happened. So, I don't know. One of the great things is, for us, in terms of time, there wasn't much to this episode.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you as far as this is definitely a show, and you have said this before, so I'm going to quote Joe Betance here, in that the producers tell you how you are supposed to feel. And by using that music, they definitely are trying to paint out Utica as the quirky queen. Not that she needs necessarily a lot of help with that, but I think that that is doing her a disservice because as we've seen with some of these outfits, she's more than just quirky. She's artistic. She's very creative and she sees things and she sees the world in a different way. And that should be celebrated. And I guess to some degree it's celebrated because she's on the show, but to play that music, I think that was more to kind of speak to Simone's uncomfortableness, and that we were supposed to feel Simone's uncomfortableness to this versus what is the outfit that Utica brought for the makeover challenge.
Every time you talk, this is the music I'm playing now.
Is it? That's just going to be what happens every time? I'm trying to sound like I know what I'm talking about, but it's clear to everybody else in the workroom they're all giving me side eye.
Yeah.
That music plays in my head all the time while I'm talking to clients. Yeah. Where they just look at me and go, "This motherfucker has no clue what he's talking about."
They do that all the time.
What are your thoughts about and maybe we'll talk about this a little bit more when Rue comes in and talks with her about it, but Utica's concerns about the outfit that Simone brought for the makeover challenge?
It's weird. It's actually to the point, if I'm being honest, now I haven't really formed these thoughts completely in my head, so please forgive me because I'm just winging it right now. But it's to the point where methinks she doth protest too much. And I'm like, it's to the point where like, okay, bitch, calm down. It is almost a different kind of racism. I wouldn't call Utica racist. But what I would say is you can get to a point where you're being so careful that it almost comes off as racist. What I mean is
it's offensive.
It's offensive because you're like, oh, you crazy black people, you're going to get so crazy if I wear a fro or if I do this and I don't want to hear it. So now I'm going to treat you like a child, like a child that doesn't behave.
Yeah.
And so
you don't know what this will do to me. You don't know, your privilege of saying you want me to wear this outfit from this movie.
Yeah.
How that will affect me, a white person.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is something I didn't think of it quite in that way, but that is true.
Yeah. I could understand checking in, I could understand checking in. You want to check in, but I think that's fine. I mean, it's a black person having you wear her own clothes. The challenge was to make you into her. She wasn't putting you in blackface. She was just saying she's trying to give you her persona and be like, I don't want to do appropriation is when you take it.
Right.
And not give credit.
If Rosé and her were teamed up and said, we should totally wear the outfits from Babs.
Yes.
That would be a problem.
Yes. But when someone's gifting it to you, they're welcoming you and that's not appropriation. And when RuPaul and Simone are saying, please do this, you're fine. Stop overthinking it. And like I said, the overthinking is almost as offensive.
Yeah.
I understand the intent is good. I get it. But at a certain point, you just stop.
Yeah. No, I think that is very much, and there's something about it that makes me sad. Because, as we've seen on the show at various points, the idea of drag, Rue has talked about the idea of drag is kind of a middle finger to the culture.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's supposed to kind of give you something to talk about. It's art, and art is subjective, as we see it on another show that talks about that. And if it's being done in a way that is loving, that it is not mocking another culture, and it is being done with the blessing of someone from that culture, on national television, I think that is where it is okay. My concern is that you're going to see more of this as future seasons of people not wanting to deal with the backlash on social media the second something airs. So it's going to be where we're kind of seeing that. We've seen that over the last couple of seasons, but this is a prime example of that, of kind of the watering down of drag to where you're only supposed to be, either super artsy, super glamour, super funny, and you have to stay within these certain little boxes, as compared to other drag competition shows that we've seen, Dragula being one in particular, that where, everything is on the table, and the crazier, the better. And, I don't want this to be where future contestants for seasons 13, 14, 15, 16 consider drag to be very precious and to be very much of where it has to be. It has to stay with, because I don't want people to come for me wearing this when I'm trying to make a statement, with one of my outfits.
I want to say, for the record, I would much rather have Utica err on the side of caution. There's a certain point where you're like, okay, bitch, we get it. But rather than be Elliot with 2 T's who goes on all these talk shows and talks about black girl magic and is not aggressive and blah, 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 blah. And you're like, okay, now, I think I understand where Utica's coming from in that I'm sure she doesn't want to offend anybody, but, the one thing I will say is the Drag Race fandom is vicious. So it's funny. I don't think that her cause for concern, I think, is warranted. But once you've checked in, I think you're fine. And I think it's good that they put it in.
Well, and I understand that to a degree, but I also think that you have people, she checked in with Simone. Yeah. She checked in with RuPaul. They had confessionals about it. You're still going to have people that, no matter what she did, are going to say that what she wore is offensive.
Yeah.
Because there is that level of, no matter what, I watch the show to be offended so that I can rant about it online.
Yeah.
There is a part of the population who watches the show that no matter what, that's going to happen. But at some point, when we stop doing things, when we stop allowing ourselves these creative outlets and stop allowing ourselves to push the envelope, I'm not saying rip the envelope apart, but push the envelope, and things get safer and safer, those people, that small percentage, they win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think you're right. I think we are in a place right now where, there was a time before Drag Race where, you're right, drag was a fuck you, and no one actually did drag to make a real living.
Right.
Even the icons that I'm sure we love, Coco Peru and Jackie Beat and Lady Bunny, probably had full-time day jobs, at one point.
Yeah.
You were there making $50, a show or something, if that.
And some drink tickets.
But now being a drag queen is seen as a viable career, and people are thinking about that rather than it being an artistic expression or social commentary. And I think that's the thing too, is we've seen drag evolve from social commentary, which I think is what it was at one point, to now. It's funny because as much as the show itself and the perception of drag has evolved, where, like, if you look at seasons 1, 2, and 3, the focus in the competition was on female illusion. And it's now evolved from that. But definitely seasons 1 through 3 really focused on female illusion and how good your female illusion was, to now a more rounded view of drag. It does seem now that the show, as open as it is to different kinds of drag, there seems to be a hyper focus with the up and coming drag queens on being look queens. Maybe not female illusion queens, but couture queens, look queens, Instagram queens. And we see that they don't actually do well on the show all the time. They can do well, but, and so, like, what is the viability of that? You were just saying you went to a drive-in drag, and that Aquaria, who is a look queen, was boring.
Yep.
Violet Chachki, who is probably the one that ushered in this new era of, Instagram queen and look queen, was boring. They're not really performers. How was Plastique Tiara?
She was okay. She did a bunch of like Ariana Grande songs. So, but I mean, she was so pretty that you were kind of focused on that. I don't remember necessarily being a great dancer, but I also had somebody in the car that absolutely loved her. Yeah. My nephew went nuts for her. So, I mean, I was kind of enjoying watching her because he was having such a good time.
Yeah. But then you said one of the best performers was Asia O'Hara, who is more of the old school kind of drag and knows how to put on a show. So, so the social commentary part, where it was a big sort of fuck you, and we're gonna push the envelope, that seems to be on the not as important side. In fact, who was the last queen that's been on the show that sort of has that? Maybe Peppermint? I wouldn't even say
Sasha?
Peppermint is Sasha. Yeah, I would.
Well,
say
they were the same season. So
but
Sasha Velour was very.
Peppermint, though, is just by her existence. Sasha, though, is really actually telling art to push people's buttons. Yeah, has there really been anyone since?
I don't know. I have a feeling we'll hear about it in the chat room if somebody thinks of it before them.
Which is funny, because I feel if you're that kind of queen, or if you want to be that kind of queen, this is your moment, to be that queen. And I think you could do really well. I think, everything's cyclical. And if you want to make your mark, it's not going to be by being yet another look queen. It's not going to be by being another comedy queen. I think it's going to be I wouldn't think to say Sasha Velour. I think it's his own thing. But if you could somehow mix comedy queen with envelope pushing, maybe a Bianca Del Rio who's funny, then you could have something.
I mean, looking at All Stars, I mean, Shea Coulee definitely, I think, pushed the envelope with some of her outfits and some of her just kind of putting her blackness out there and doing it in a way that there was definitely commentary on some of her looks, particularly the nude bodysuit with all of the. I mean, that was definitely something where you saw this, true, black woman, black beauty, excellence sort of thing with the very short afro and stuff. That was something that definitely kind of pushed an envelope in a way that was, I don't know anybody that didn't like that outfit.
Well, if you think about it, Simone has been kind of doing that too, with really putting her blackness front and center as part of her look. So Simone might be able to do it, but she's doing it through looks, there's something that's totally right. I'm talking more about in statements. I don't know. I'm still thinking this out in my head.
Okay.
But basically, I'm announcing I'm becoming a drag queen.
And your name will be?
Sciatica Epstein Barr.
Okay.
So, Bell Palsy.
All right. Bella Palsy.
Bella Palsy.
All right. Next, RuPaul enters the workroom for table visits.
Yeah.
Candy reveals that she believes she has psychic powers, while Gottmik speaks of her experience as an adopted child. Denali performs her best Olivia Lux impression. Tina expresses her hatred for the color pink. And Ru points out Rosé's flourishes. Finally, RuPaul eases Utica's fears about cultural appropriation.
Yeah.
Any thoughts?
Yeah, the only thing I really have, and it comes up a couple of times, Ru does it with Rosé, and she does it with somebody else. I can't remember. But I forget, RuPaul is very, very, it's a skill she has that I wish she actually put on display more. She is so good at picking up on people's little tricks and go-tos. Like, for instance, Rosé's hand move. She mentioned it with somebody else. Was it Gottmik or was it Candy? I don't remember who. But
I think it was Candy. She mentioned something about Candy, I think.
Yeah, like something else that they did. She picks up on this, on these things very easily. Because if you remember, she did it during All Stars. She pointed out with Blair St. Clair about Blair did that move where she like shuddered when that was a secret.
Shimmy shush or whatever.
Yeah, and then she goes shh. Like RuPaul is really good at picking up on those things, and we got to see that on display there, and it was really cool to see. She picks up on those things. What about you?
Right. I mean, this was standard fare. I thought the fact that everybody got along and kind of dovetailing to the conversation we had before, the fact that Utica, I mean, it speaks to kind of the level of not delusion, but just that Utica's on a kind of different plane of existence. One, The whole, like, you know, so did you like what you saw as far as the lip sync? I don't think we've ever seen a queen ask Ru that question before.
Yeah.
The closest we came to it was this season on UK, where Ellie Diamond says to Ru, "Why don't I have a nickname like Lawrence Chaney does?"
Yeah.
Which was very like it was kind of a cringy moment.
Yeah.
That they kept in on both seasons. But I think also the fact that Simone was the one who said, we have some concerns that we wanted to hear your blessing on, I thought was a smart thing for Simone to do.
Yeah.
Because it was kind of gently nudging Utica to the, look, I told you this is going to be okay. If Mama Ru says it's going to be okay, you know, we're not going to leave you out we're not going to leave you out to the wolves.
And I think that's a good point. And that's a conversation that may have happened off camera between them, because from my experience, from seeing table visits with Utica is not on a wavelength where she picks up on those things. So if we've seen before, RuPaul literally is in a very subtle way telling her, do this. And Utica will be like, I'm still going to do the other thing. And like, she just basically told you, don't do that. If she doesn't pick, so I think you're right. I think Simone said, Utica, RuPaul literally said this. That must have happened because in every other version of this, Utica doesn't hear RuPaul.
Right.
Because I think she doesn't pick up on those cues. So, so you're right. It's a very good point. By the way, and I don't think we're on that choreography thing. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. Well, we've been talking for a while, so why don't we take a break?
All right, we'll be back right after this.
This is Amy Poehler. My new movie, Disney and Pixar's Inside Out 2, is coming to theaters June 14th, and it's making me feel joy and sadness and anger, definitely some disgust, and I think a little fear. But I'm also feeling these new emotions like anxiety, embarrassment, envy, and ennui.
It's what you call the boredom.
Okay, that one was weird. It's going to be the feel everything movie of the summer. Disney and Pixar's Inside Out 2, rated PG, parental guidance suggested. Only in theaters June 14th. Get tickets now.
Yeah!
Oh my God.
I don't ever get to do that, so I wanted to do it.
Wow.
All right. On the main stage, the queens go 2 by 2, practicing their partners' runway walks. Denali shows Olivia how to skate down the runway in heels. Tina and Rose teach each other their unique walks. Utica picks up Simone's mannerisms. Candy moans her way through Gottmik's impersonations. Finally, Gottmik taps her inner Banshee. So what were your thoughts on this segment of the show?
You know, I've watched it several times trying to take notes, and the only note I had was it was really cute when Rose lifted her shirt. We got to see her butt for a second.
Why do I not remember that?
She has a cute butt.
She has a cute lots of things. I've seen pictures, and they're very nice.
Oh, wait, I forgot about that. Please send. But also, is it in Porn Decor Lounge?
It's in Porn Decor Lounge, yes.
By the way, if for those of you out there at patreon.com/afterthoughtmedia, you get access to our Discord, where there's a whole channel called Porn Decor Lounge that seems to be curated mostly by Nami Harder. But, where.
Thank you for your service, Nami.
Yeah. Anyway, it's such a big nothing moment. She's just moving her shirt to like just work, and I'm okay. What is that, Rose?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
This was a fun segment because usually the dance things, somebody is fighting with somebody because they're arguing, and this was just everybody learning from each other, and it was generally everybody was having a good time.
Good, funny that you say that, because the one thing I will say is everybody, with the exception of one team, seemed very natural. You know, like they were just like, we're doing our thing, and it seemed real. I will say, and if you rewatch it, look out for this. Tina and Rose, who of course are big theater queens from New York, are very aware the camera is there, and you're aware that they're aware, and they're totally hamming it up for the camera. They're totally playing to camera. Where I didn't get that sense for the other three teams. But with their team, both of them were trying to do something. I don't know what it was. It was really strange. It was a whole performance that they did.
Well, but it was fun to watch. Whereas I feel a little bit like Gottmik laughing at the whole "I'm uncomfortable." That to me felt forced.
Oh, really? I thought it was so natural.
Yeah. No, it was there's times that I feel like, you know, I feel like we talked about this early in the season. The Gottmik's trying a little too hard when she's not in drag, and this felt like that. It felt like a little kid trying to pretend to laugh at themselves.
Oh, I didn't get that sense at all. Interesting. Huh.
Yeah.
No. But other than that, there was not really much to the segment for me. I mean, that's what I'm saying. That's what made it sometimes, like, for instance, to do a filmmaking sort of principle. Sometimes you have sets where everybody gets along, and it's a horrible movie. And then you have sets where everybody hated each other, and it's art.
Yes.
You know? Perfect example that we were earlier, I think on Just Between Us Girls, we were talking about the movie Chinatown. They all hated each other in China. Faye Dunaway's such a crazy person, right? But they made art, you know? And it's the same thing here. Sometimes a fun show to watch isn't necessarily a fun show to recap.
That's a podcast you should do.
What?
A podcast about Faye Dunaway.
Oh, God.
All of the crazy Faye Dunaway stories.
In college, I interviewed her. And we were told not to bring up Mommy Dearest. She was perfectly lovely. She was perfectly lovely in the interview. Now, before the pandemic, she was writing a book, finally, about her time in Mommy Dearest.
But,
you know, she is an absolute cuckoo bird, crazy person. She is fascinating. Have you ever heard that voicemail she left? Yeah. Oh
yes.
My God, so
I feel like you've played that voicemail for me, like on an episode of something.
Oh, really? Yeah. It's about, what was that we should do with Johnny Depp and Marlon Brando? Don Juan DeMarco.
Island of Dr. Moreau.
I thought it was Don Juan DeMarco.
No, Don Juan DeMarco. That's right.
Don Juan DeMarco. And she's mad about that. And I don't know. She's just she's a crazy person. She's an absolute. No. I mean, look, talk about somebody. I was trying to explain her to Aiden because Aiden watched Chinatown. I'm like, you probably have an unmatched, I can't think of another, maybe Meryl Streep, but like, an unmatched beat in like iconic films in the 70s. She goes from like Bonnie and Clyde to Chinatown to Network. I mean, she has iconic film to iconic film, and she is such a nightmare to work with that despite that, people won't work with her. That's why she got she couldn't get work. That's why she did Mommy Dearest. That was supposed to be her big comeback, because to prove that she still had it. And then, boy, did she have it.
I feel like I've said this before on the show, but I'll say it really fast. Years ago, I saw a screening of Mommy Dearest that was hosted by Hedda Lettuce. And she said, for anyone who's never seen Mommy Dearest is a movie where Faye Dunaway is the last one in on the joke.
Yeah.
So,
well, you know, it's so funny. The podcast, I don't think it exists anymore, but they still have their shows up called You Must Remember This. They did a whole mini season on Joan Crawford and Betty Davis. And at the end, they covered Mommy Dearest. And they talked about the movie and whatnot. And they talked about, you know, Faye Dunaway famously did not get along with the director. And there is a theory, I don't know if I need to hold true to this, that the director intentionally edited the film to make Faye Dunaway look crazy. But most of all, by holding the closing shot at the end of each scene 1 or 2 seconds too long. And if you look at the film, now I don't know if this was a choice or not. It's true. The shots are held for like 1 or 2 seconds too long that make her look extra crazy. Because she's holding it for them to say cut. You know? And then they usually cut away and it doesn't look crazy. But that they held it in the edit just a second or two longer, so that she's just like a crazy person just standing there. Mommy Dearest, I could do a whole series on Mommy Dearest. That is an incredible film.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. It's Elimination Day, and the pairs beat each other's faces for the doppelganger runway. Rosé learns to be more direct. Tina pledges to be more demure. Denali and Olivia discuss their maternal influences. Next, Candy gives Gottmik her signature brow, and Gottmik reveals their former struggles with their femininity. Candy speaks about her struggles to love herself. Meanwhile, the group teases Rosé about her signature Tina Burner makeup.
I have no thoughts.
Joe.
The Elimination Day, I have no thoughts. I mean,
Yeah.
I thought it was very pleasant. There was nothing wrong with it, but there was no real... I mean, we talked about it in the beginning. Candy Muse, I think, was the biggest revelation, where we're seeing, I think, for the first time, the real Candy Muse.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I like this person.
Yeah.
This seems like a real person.
It was where she was pleasant, and the fact that when she was talking to Gottmik while they were, and talking about loving themselves and talking about, recognizing, embracing who they are. It was everything about this up until the very end is very light, and it's very refreshing. And usually the mirror moments are really kind of bring you down. And this felt all much of a celebration of learning from each other and being more, being more authentic, which was nice. It was a nice thing.
Yeah. Like I said, I said it a million times today. A very pleasant episode. I think for you up until you got to a certain point, but a very pleasant episode.
Yeah. All right. So next up, you know what we got, Joe?
What?
We've got the looks.
Oh God. Well, since I'm in the second chair today, I have so much to say about the looks. And those are the looks. All right. What's next?
So go ahead. You're in second chair. Talk about the category is drag doppelgangers.
Well, as you know, Taylor, I love these looks, and I'm going to go through them because, thank God for Drew Brooks, Afterthought Media superstar listener Drew Brooks. And the first person I'm going to talk about is RuPaul. Why she can't does she know she's black?
I thought the same thing. That whole thing, that panel of skin, or that panel of fabric that was supposed to match the color of her skin. That was unfortunate.
But why even have the panel there?
That was, I think, because of the illusion of the breasts, maybe.
Oh,
that she would have to. It would show some sort of padding underneath. But I almost think that do it a different color then, or just go without the padding and just do contouring. But yeah, I thought she looked really pretty though. In the picture that Drew Brooks found for us, she looks very much like Vanessa Williams. She does,
but don't you think? Hold on, I don't know anything about fashion, right?
Mm-hmm.
But these outfits are very expensive. The designers, Zaldi's always a designer. Don't you think in this case what you could do? I don't know anything about fashion, Taylor. Don't you think you could get a picture of either RuPaul's chest or a real person's chest and screen print it on there?
I guess you could. I mean, you could probably do something with that, but depending on how the light hits it, I think that would look even worse.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but first up down the runway is Rosé.
Yeah, Ricky. Look, I realized how little she was when I saw the pictures.
Mm-hmm.
You also realize what horrible look Tina Burner has. Also, by the way, I will say, I mean, I don't know why Tina wasn't up for elimination, because they kind of have a point in that Gottmik's color scheme, at least, that when she's dressed as Candy was more Tina Burner than the one that she put Rosé in. This is not. In fact, the whole season, I don't think I've seen Tina Burner in any kind of color scheme like this. Green and white.
Right. Yeah, it was a weird. I guess maybe it was supposed to be because of the reveal at the bottom, where she's in the cheetah print outfit. Maybe that was supposed to be it, but I don't get it.
Yeah, and then her walk was super weird. No.
Yeah, not great. Not great.
Next up is Tina Burner. Someone on Reddit said that they were giving Nina West realness, and I kind of think that's very funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of very, very Nina West, actually. I have nothing else to have to do with thoughts.
Next up, Olivia Lux.
Okay, I do have things on Olivia Lux. I actually think, now don't get me wrong, and I'm sure we'll talk about this at the end, I actually think it looked kind of sloppy. And I don't know, I don't think they brought this up. I don't think they did at all. At least that we saw. This ice skating move that Denali had her do
was
bad.
So
cringy and awful that Denali should have gone home for having Olivia do that walk.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was awful. I mean, yes, I did get Denali from it, but that walk was terrible, and that's my thoughts on Olivia Lux.
Why not put her in? I mean, don't they have like ice skates where the boot but the blade comes out? Why not put her in something like that?
Yeah,
that gives at least the illusion of ice skates.
Or does maybe they asked, but does Olivia know how to rollerblade? I don't know. But I don't know.
I don't know
what size shoe she wears.
Who knows?
Yeah.
All right. Next up, Denali.
You know, I completely. She's supposed to be Olivia Lux. I completely agree. She looks. Who's the one that said she looks like the drag queen who showed up to do drag bingo?
Oh, I didn't hear anybody say that.
Oh, maybe that was on Reddit. Anyway, I saw somewhere someone said she looks like every drag queen that takes drag very seriously and shows up exactly on time every week when she's supposed to do her local drag bingo, and that's what she looks like. And I'm like, she does. She looks like your standard issue cookie cutter central casting drag queen.
Yes. Yeah. She was the only one that you couldn't necessarily see her in with everybody else. You could tell who it was. And she was the one that she looked so different, but she didn't look like anybody that represented anything from the rest of the season. You know, when I think of Olivia Lux, I always think light and airy, and whether they talked about the fact that they could have given her the big curls, but I always know, like, I think of like the yellow outfit that she wore. She's always wearing lots of like pinks and things like that. And then this weird, like, dark orange with the black and the big heavy. She's known for the tiny purse.
Yeah.
And she hands her this huge fur, I don't know what you would call it. It was an odd choice for her.
Yeah. Here's my question though, because they said it as a judgment on Olivia putting her look on Denali. Maybe you just answered this question, but how much of this is just Olivia Lux has a really boring look, and then what makes it sing is actually Olivia's charisma and the way Olivia's particular look is.
That's a really good point.
I don't know.
Where it looks so heavy. Mm-hmm. It just looks like, she's the outfit is wearing her. She's not wearing the outfit.
That's what Aiden says when he sees my nudes. Yeah, go ahead.
Next up is Simone.
Okay, I said this during the show. When Utica was describing it, I thought it sounded amazing. And I think Simone, being so good at doing the runway anyway, made this piece and its concept sing. Mm-hmm. I thought it looked incredible walking down the runway. It really did look like a body trying to escape from the skin. So I think, look, if anything, Utica has a career as designing clothes for drag queens after this is done. But
absolutely,
it's so funny because on Reddit they were talking about how, I don't know, on one conversation in the thread they were talking about how no one designs clothes for big girls, you know. And then later on, they were talking about how Ivy Winters is retired from drag, and now she sews hot air balloons. And I was like, why can't you combine those two? Anyway, because on Reddit, I don't know why. And they were two independent, but they were not related to each other. Okay, Simone. Anyway, I thought it was incredible. I'll be honest with you.
Yes, it was great. She sold the garment too. She definitely embodied. She embodied Utica's quirky style, but did it in a way that was still very Simone.
Yes, but also I think what Utica does, not to her credit, I think she does herself a discredit, is Utica is so, ironically, uncomfortable in her own skin that she turns all of her runway looks into jokes. Mm-hmm. And on the scale, it goes more kooky than it does couture. Mm-hmm. And I think Simone still captured Utica, but still had the kookiness, but still made this more couture. And I think Utica, even though it's the same look and Utica designed it in her concept, I think it would have come off as kooky, where here it came off as fashion.
Right.
So
that's a great point. All right. And speaking of Utica is next.
I think she really sold this look. It has very Afrocentric designs and colors, which you think wouldn't look good on a girl so white as Utica. But Simone managed to make it sing in a way that still spoke to the black excellence in fashion, but yet was not. I mean, it's good to pair someone with Utica like Simone, because Simone is so smart that she was able to make this work without it seeming offensive.
Yes. It was well done. Somebody on Untucked mentioned that she looks like Sharon Needles
Yeah.
And now that's all I see. That's all I see when I see her. But I thought that, and she kind of, the good thing about this was, speaking, sort of bringing it back to when they were teaching each other the walks, this shows that hopefully Utica sees this for the rest of her season, that she doesn't have to be so quirky and over the top. Because they talked about the fact that she was very much in, kind of trying to represent Simone in a way that felt very Simone. And her walk and everything, it never got where she made a weird face or she kind of like, stuck an arm out or something. Yeah. It was very much a great look.
All right. Very good.
All right. Next up is Gottmik.
Yeah.
Dressed as Candy Muse.
She looks a lot, reminding me of like an early 90s Cyndi Lauper.
Yeah.
I could see Cyndi, you know more than I do, but I could see Cyndi Lauper wearing this outfit.
Cyndi Lauper, I think, wouldn't have been quite so revealing with the legs, but I could see something similar to that in an 80s look. It is Terry Mugler inspired. I know that they mentioned that when they were on the runway, and it's okay.
I don't think it's an unfair
I really
assessment.
kind of thought the same thing, that it's very Tina Burner.
Exactly. I don't think it's an unfair assessment to say it looks more like Tina Burner than what Tina Burner put in Rosé.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and our last look is Candy Muse.
Which, I will say, she captured the essence of Gottmik in her look on Candy Muse. You look at this and you knew it was Gottmik. I don't deny that. And I think Candy Muse did a good job selling it on the runway. Yeah. So, that was great.
All right. Well, and those are the looks.
I'm so mad that you tricked me into doing the looks.
So, after the pairs were critiqued, RuPaul asks each queen who they think should go home this week. The answers were Rosé, said Olivia. Tina, said Olivia. Olivia said Utica. Denali said Candy. Simone, said Olivia. Utica, said Olivia. Gottmik, said Olivia. And Candy, said Olivia.
So obviously Olivia's going home.
Yes, clearly that's what's happening.
Yeah.
After the judges deliberate, the queens are called back to the main stage. Simone and Utica win the challenge, while Denali and Olivia are placed in the bottom two and are forced to face off in a lip-sync battle for their lives. The song, Shackles, Praise You, by Mary Mary. In the end, Olivia Lux lives to see another day, while Denali is asked to sashay away. Joe Betance, do you have any final thoughts on the episode with the deliberations?
Yeah.
Talking about the lip sync?
Yeah.
The dreaded question of who should go home tonight? What are your thoughts?
Well, first I want to talk about the lip sync. I think one of the faults of this show is by the time we get to this point, both of us are so done.
Yes.
I'm tired, and then Babalu's banging on the door because you have to go to PetSmart or something like that. And and
at 10 o'clock at night, we have to go to PetSmart.
Yeah. And no, I'm talking about right now. Like,
about recording the
Taylor,
show.
Yeah, Taylor always schedules the show right before he has to do all his errands for the day. And
all my other errands. This is an errand that I have to do.
we often gloss over the lip sync. So my typical prep style is I take all my notes, I type them up, I look at Luke's script and then completely scrap it and write a whole new script, and then and then I get ready at Friday night for Saturday morning, and then after I'm done, as I go to bed, I'll go on Reddit and read what they think, and I'll also read it in the morning. Okay. And one of the things they were all talking about was like, oh, this lip sync, because people are really mad that Denali went home. Okay. And that, Denali there should have been a double Shantae, or that Denali should have stayed and Olivia should have gone home. We can talk about that in a second. I watched this lip sync. It was fine. Right? It was fine.
It was whelming.
Yeah, it was whelming. Thank you. But no double Shantae. They cut it in such a way that you could make an argument for either one to go home or for either one to stay. I don't see it so obvious. But then that does support the opinion that, and we'll get to that in a second, I want to get what you think, that Denali wasn't criticized for the look she gave Olivia. You know, that we saw. That they think she did a fine job. But that Olivia was heavily criticized for that horrible look she gave Denali, so Olivia should have gone home. And I do agree with that assessment. You know, that does make sense. It seems like Olivia did the bad job. Denali should go home. And also the argument, I don't know why they did this thing, I mean, obviously for drama's sake, where the two team members had to go head to head. Because another argument was that it really should have been Olivia versus Tina or Olivia versus Candy. By the way, some people wrote on Reddit, oh, thank God they finally did Shackles. They did it on season 1.
I was going to say, wasn't that a season? What they've done this? They've done this before.
And Rebecca Glasscock versus Chanel. It's like second to last episode, like episode 7 or something like that. Episode 5. I don't know. Well, second to last episode.
Yeah.
So, but the point is, the point I'm making is that, like, and I want to get your thoughts on that. Like, the lip sync was fine. I didn't see anything special, and I do disagree that Denali going home just purely based on she didn't do as bad a job as Olivia. But I want to get your thoughts.
We were surprised when she said, "Olivia, Shantae, you stay." We both did a little. We weren't expecting that. I think that it came down to they were the losing team, and then it was just that Olivia did the better of the two. But you also figure that's kind of a high energy song, and she's got Denali, or Olivia is in a ice skating outfit, whereas Denali is in that heavy outfit. It's kind of similar to the Kamora Hall earlier this season where she couldn't move in that dragon outfit.
Yeah.
So I think that might have been what kind of brought her down. Plus, the energy in Untucked, Denali felt very resigned to the fact that she was probably going home. So I think that there wasn't necessarily the full energy that she could have given. As far as everybody going, they can't believe Denali stayed. I think that's just the cute boy. That's just the cute boys can't leave. Mm-hmm. You know, we can get rid of everybody else. Particularly, we can get rid of people of color. But you know, if you're a cute, you know, boy of a certain shade of brown, then you can stay. But whatever. You know, Denali was fun. At some point, I didn't think Denali was going to make it to top 4. Mm-hmm. And I'm okay with that. You know, I would have been okay if either one went home, honestly,
here's
at that point.
We are now post-Snatch Game. And as you know, when it's post-Snatch Game, the eliminations now get more serious.
Yeah.
You know, my only regret for Denali was I think she's a better drag queen than she was recognized on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Now look, they're bringing back everybody for this All-Stars. They're All-Stars, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm sure Denali will have a life again on All-Stars. And we'll get to see more of her. I think, I don't think we got to see the full scope of her talent. And I think that's going to be true for a lot of the people that go home the rest of the way after Snatch Game. You know, because only really a few queens have really been recognized. It's like Gottmik, Simone, and who else? Like those two have gotten a lot of love. You know,
I think Utica's gotten a lot of love, just in a different. I mean, with her looks, I think Utica's gotten a lot of love.
Okay. Well, I think you're wrong.
Really it.
Yeah. So in terms of the people naming people, like they seem to all name for the most part Olivia. I wonder if the Olivia and Utica stuff has to do with, you know, their drama from last week, which I'm sure it does. Where Olivia overheard Utica saying one thing when she told everybody else privately, and then Utica,
where they all kind of see that, but nobody was dumb enough to say it out loud.
Yeah,
sort of thing.
No, remember Olivia was like, Utica was saying that Olivia did bad in Snatch Game. But she had told Olivia.
That's what I'm saying. But everybody talks about how much they like Olivia and they don't want to hurt Olivia's feelings.
Yes.
Until they're forced to say a name, and given everything that was said, I don't see Olivia winning the season.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that her time, she's one that I could see could be next on the chopping block.
We'll see how long she lasts. I don't know, Taylor.
We'll see.
You know where you can find out is over on this rumor mill.
And where would I find that?
Afterthought.com/afterthoughtmedia.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's going to do it this week for RuPaul's Drag Race Recap. Be sure to join us next week and every week as we continue to discuss, dissect, and deconstruct each brand new episode of RuPaul's Drag Race Season 13. So, for Joe Betance and myself,
sashay away.
Thank you for listening to RuPaul's Drag Race Recap. Have something to say? Email us at dragracerecap@afterthought.media. For more Drag Race and LGBTQ content, support us over at Patreon at patreon.com/afterthoughtmedia. You can follow Taylor the Latte Boy on Instagram and Twitter at PIMC Taylor. Follow Joe Betance on Instagram at Joe Betance. That's JoeBetance. This episode was produced by Luke Stamen. Drag Race Recap is an Afterthought Media podcast.
Say goodbye to your credit card rewards. Greedy corporate mega stores, led by Walmart and Target, are pushing for a law in Congress to take away your hard-earned cash back and travel points to line their pockets. The Durbin-Marshall credit card bill would enact harmful credit card routing mandates that would end credit card rewards as we know it. If you love your credit card rewards, tell your lawmakers, hands off my rewards. Tell them to oppose the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill.